Hello and welcome to NJBIZ Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Kanige. My guest today is Chrissy Buteas. She is the president and CEO of the Healthcare Institute of New Jersey. Chrissy, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Oh, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time. Now, our viewers probably know that Hinge is a trade association for biopharmaceutical and medical technology companies. That's obviously a critical segment of the state's economy. And I'm sure a lot of folks are familiar with your work. I mean, so you were, I think, for about 4.5 years, you ran government relations for the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, so you're a familiar name. You've been in this role, as I recall, if I recall correctly, about a year and a half or so.
Yeah, inching on 2 years.
Inching on 2 years. Okay. So I'm curious, I'm going to start there. I'm curious whether in that time you've learned anything that you didn't know before, or have you encountered any issues or problems or challenges that you didn't anticipate? Has anything surprised you so far?
Well, I've learned a lot. I've really respected and have grown a deep appreciation for the industry, both the pharmaceutical as well as the medical technology sector. I've always known that we've had such a significant presence in the state. I
Right.
know that you know this, but we
Yes.
were known as the medicine chest of the world. But,
There you go.
but what
I
we
knew that phrase was going to come up at some point
Hey,
during
I
this
had to
conversation.
say it in at least the first 60 seconds or so.
Okay.
But what I really have grown to appreciate is our contributions to human health. And that goes from, curing hepatitis C and finding a vaccination against cervical cancer, not to mention all the work we did around COVID-19.
Mm,
And I know this is near and dear to me, but again, my grandparents, I had one who suffered from Alzheimer's, another from cancer, and I know this also impacts so many countless families out there, and
right.
not to mention those who suffer from rare diseases. Our members each and every day are trying to find different treatments and cures so that our New Jersey residents, as well as those across the United States and around the world, are able to live their lives to the fullest extent. And what is so special is that this is the home for the pharmaceutical industry right
Right.
here in the
Mhm.
state of New Jersey. And so a lot of times we take that for granted, even from as simple as you get a cut and you put a Band-Aid on it. The Band-Aid was discovered here in the state of New Jersey. And so
Right.
again, that appreciation I really have grown to love and to really enjoy telling everybody and relaying that story to our
Okay.
policymakers as well as our stakeholders. But I do have to say as well, the impact to New Jersey's economy, and as you mentioned, coming from the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, just recognizing the amount of investment that the pharmaceutical industry, the medical technology industry bring to the state's economy is immense. We have about $120 billion impact to the state's economy, nearly a fifth of the state's GDP, 356,000 direct and indirect jobs, over 2,400 life sciences companies, and it goes on. And so, without a doubt, we have a big impact in the state.
Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned a lot of things there, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that you mentioned, things that we take for granted. And a lot of what we took for granted seems to be being called into question now, especially with some of the stuff that's coming out of Washington, not only from the Health and Human Services and the CDC, but also from Congress in terms of subsidies for health insurance. I'm curious, as you watch and listen to what's coming out of the federal government, are you concerned about the direction that policy has taken there? I mean, I'm thinking specifically. You mentioned vaccines and hepatitis C. I mean, we're not hearing what we used to hear from the CDC, for example, or HHS. Are you concerned about that policy direction?
Yeah, definitely. We want to make sure that we're able to provide those life-saving treatments and vaccines to our residents as well as those around the world. We've been able to eradicate a lot of diseases. And
Right.
so when we're working with our policymakers, we need to frequently remind them of this and certainly don't want to backtrack. And so we've been working with our policymakers to ensure that vaccinations remain available to those that want them.
Okay.
Obviously, there's other policies that are coming out of Washington as well. We are definitely trying to avoid and have been opposed to any mandatory price controls. Again, we are really strive to be in an innovation economy here and need to compete with those around the world. And we need to make sure that we have an environment that really does incentivize that innovation.
Okay. Yeah, I actually did want to ask you about price controls because there has been a tendency, not only in this administration, but in the previous one, to respond to high prices, especially for prescription drugs, with some kind of price controls. Again, from what you hear, is that going to be an ongoing problem, or are you hearing that things may take a different turn at this point?
It's still a topic of conversation and still one that we absolutely have a concern with. I mean, just think about a whole supply chain, and all you're doing is saying this one particular area is going to have a price control.
Hmm.
What happens to the rest of it? How is the rest being taken into consideration? What we have been stressing is a need for PBM reform. So
Hmm.
essentially the middleman.
Pharmacy benefit
And
managers.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And to make sure that any savings that our manufacturers pass along to the PBM actually reaches the patient at the pharmacy counter. So
Okay.
we are pleased to hear that there has been bipartisan support in Congress, and we do hope that that moves forward.
Okay. Well, that was the next question. Was on all of these issues. Are you finding a receptive audience, for for lack of a better term, in Congress at least? And then I want to ask about the state because in some ways states sort of have tried, or at least New Jersey has, and other states too, have tried to step into where the federal government has pulled back. First of all, are you getting hearing at least in Washington? Do you think?
So we definitely have heard that PBM reform remains a topic of conversation. Again, bipartisan support there. Hope it moves forward. We'll
Okay.
continue to advocate for that. But certainly, as it has not moved forward as of yet on the federal level, we have had initiatives on the statewide level and a topic of conversation as of late. Hinge has been again at the forefront, and as well as some of our partners in discussing the need for PBM reform, and certain folks in the legislature have taken up this issue. We'd like to see real substantive PBM reform, and again, making sure that there is no financial incentive for the PBM to keep any savings from the patient at the pharmacy counter. So we look forward to working with the governor-elect. The governor-elect has made PBM reform at one of the top three priorities of her incoming administration. So
Mhm.
I think working with the governor-elect Cheryl as well as with the legislature, I do believe that we can achieve some real savings for our residents of the state of New Jersey.
Okay. And is the state capable of making a difference? I mean, can state policy do the kinds of things that you're talking about, or is this something that really needs to be tackled more comprehensively at the federal level? There is a role for the state? I hear you saying that. Is that role going to be big enough to do what you needed to do?
Sure. So would love to see a federal solution, right?
Okay.
I think this would certainly benefit all of the residents of the United States, but without having a federal solution right now, the state of New Jersey can certainly act, and you will see a savings at the pharmacy counter if the state of New Jersey passes comprehensive PBM reform.
Okay. Right. There's also been skepticism about the efficacy of funding for research, particularly on the federal level. That seems like a direct threat to life sciences in New Jersey. What is your feeling there? Where do you see that going? Is that a real danger as far as you're concerned?
So we pride ourselves on having a healthy life sciences ecosystem here. I'm
Hmm.
sure you've heard that term
Yes.
used or thrown around before, and it really does mean something. And so when you have the pharmaceutical industry, for example, here, that attracts biotech, so more of your startup companies, which also bring your academic partners to the table, as well as your folks who are your venture capital and investment and your government partners. So in an ideal setting, which New Jersey has, everyone is working together. So when you remove a portion of that ecosystem, such as funding to do research,
Hmm.
that certainly will have an impact. I think it's just important to recognize that these life-saving cures and treatments do not come to bear overnight. They take years.
Right.
There's thousands and thousands of molecules that get studied, and only a handful for those thousands actually become a drug that we can use, in our day-to-day lives.
Right.
And again, our pharmaceutical industry does a lot of that research in-house, but our academic partners certainly have a very important place to play in that research and development as well. And so we need both the pharmaceutical industry as well as our academic partners to work hand in glove. And New Jersey is a leader in that area. And so we want to make sure that that can continue.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned the sort of life sciences ecosystem, the economic
Yep.
ecosystem. That has been a priority for the state, no question. A manifestation of is the Helix in New Brunswick. Those kinds of projects, I'm guessing you find are those must be critical as far as you're concerned in terms of keeping the state's lead, as it were.
Yeah, so we're really happy with the strategic innovation centers that the governor has initiated, really bringing
Right.
together, again, different parts of the ecosystem and different parts of the state to work together. And certainly the Helix, which you mentioned, that Chris Palladino and team have been leading, very exciting opportunities there. And what we'd love to see is to build out even further, whether it be the AI Hub or the Coriell Institute, and see how that plays into Governor-elect Sherrill's administration moving forward as well. A lot of opportunity ahead for innovation in the state.
Okay, well, that was the next thing I was going to ask you was about the new administration coming into Trenton.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you heard during the campaign, what you've heard since the election. Are you concerned about anything that you have heard, or you think that that the new administration will continue on the same track as the Murphy administration did? If that's a good thing, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, we're looking forward to working with Governor-elect Sherrill and her administration. As you know, as she's been a congresswoman for many years, many of our companies are actually located within her congressional district.
Right.
She's very familiar with the pharmaceutical and the medical technology industry, having worked with hand in glove our industry for years and understanding what it is that they seek to do and the value that their treatments and cures bring to the entire world.
Right.
Not to mention the economic impact and significance we play in the state. And so, yeah, we do look forward to working with her administration, as I said, also with the legislature, and to see how we can continue to build upon that innovation ecosystem. We want to be a leader in this state. And when you have a significant presence of the industry, and when you have other governors who are literally calling our member companies to go relocate or expand in another state, we definitely look forward to having a Governor-elect Sherrill being a champion for the state of New Jersey so that our member companies stay and grow here in the state of New Jersey. We definitely have that Jersey pride here and should be very proud of having such a significant industry in the state of New Jersey.
Okay. Now, during her campaign, I mean, affordability was a central tenet of her message, and was a large reason, in all likelihood, why she won. Again, we go back to the question of what you do about that, and are you concerned that pressure to deliver on affordability may lead to some outcomes that aren't ideal as far as you're concerned?
Well, like I mentioned, of the top three priorities she's had was PBM reform,
Right.
was one of them. And so we'll be working with her to enact comprehensive PBM reform and what other policies she needs to continue to make the state affordable. The pharmaceutical industry, Hinge, and our partners will be there to work as much as we can with her administration and with the legislature. Again, we want to make sure that people continue to advance here in the state, choose to go to school in the state and then live in the state. And
Right.
then again, have our companies expand here and also attract our new startups and biotechs.
Okay. Are there other issues? I mean, you mentioned PBM reform, and that the governor-elect has been an advocate for that. Are there other issues you think the administration should put front and center and the top of their agenda with regard to your industry?
Well, Jeffrey, I don't think you can get through probably one of your interviews without hearing about artificial intelligence,
Yes.
right?
Oh, okay. Then go ahead.
I mean, so that's a game changer.
Right.
One that artificial intelligence has been used in the medical technology industry for decades. We're also utilizing it in the pharmaceutical industry as
Okay.
well. And so just think about how we're going to be able and have been able to analyze data, massive amounts of data to find new treatments and how we're going to be able to do utilize it for clinical trials and site selection and patient identification, not to mention on the manufacturing side. So all of these possibilities, and again, always with the human aspect at the table. So that's certainly something that is game changing for the industry moving forward. Again, working with the legislature and the incoming administration on
Mhm.
that critical issue, as well as with the Princeton AI Hub, some great possibilities there. And on advanced manufacturing, a lot happening in that space, and cell and gene therapy, game changing. And so we're also seeing, public-private partnerships on workforce development initiative with our community colleges, to build up an aseptic processing pipeline through our New Jersey BioFutures program. I think that you're going to see a lot of those different types of programs where industries such as Johnson and Johnson has contributed to and supported the community college, as well as the state of New Jersey, also lending its support to growing these pipelines to keep critical industries operating in the state. So yeah, a
Okay.
lot of good things ahead of us.
Okay. All right. Well, that was the next question is what's ahead. I'm curious, looking ahead to 2026, are you confident about where the industry is in this state and where it's going? How do you feel about what next year is going to look like?
Well, we're definitely confident, but there's a lot of variables. As I mentioned, we have what is occurring on the federal level, whether it be with those price controls, as I've outlined, whether it could be with tariff policy, and then again on the statewide level as well, with the potential for price controls. And we do have a prescription drug affordability board that is seeking to also do some price controls. Those are the types of things that definitely damper the industry. We want to be open to innovation, and make sure that this is an environment for which we can do that. So those are the things that I think we have to be mindful of as we move forward, but certainly something we'll be working with our partners on as we move into 2026. But again, hopeful, but being very mindful of those policy initiatives as I've outlined.
Okay. And is that what you're hearing from member companies? Is that's what they're looking at too as they look into 2026?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been working very closely with both the federal administration as well as with our state administration on these policy matters. And again, want to just make sure that everybody's voices are heard, but we have to make sure that we don't damper
Right.
innovation while we're trying to reach that common ground.
Okay. So finally, given everything that we've talked about, what's going on in Washington, what's coming in Trenton, I'm curious as to what you think your biggest challenges or priorities are going to be over the next 12 months. I mean, what are you planning for? What are you anticipating at this point? What do you think you're going to be working on at this time next year?
So I'm definitely continuing to tell the great story around what the pharmaceutical industry and the medical technology industry are doing each and every day to improve patients' lives. Certainly, without a doubt, doing that. We're proud to be here in the state of New Jersey, and I think we should scream that from the rooftops. Again, other states trying to attract and recruit our member companies. Second, again, is that education around what will ultimately save patients funds or money at the pharmacy counter, and that turns
Right.
back to PBM reform. So you'll hear
Mhm.
us talking about that at the federal and state level, and then again the challenges of price controls when you just take one segment of the market and just try to control it and not taking the whole supply chain into consideration. So those will be things that you'll hear us talk about at the federal and state level. And again, working with our partners in academia as well as our government partners to come together to build out this whole industry, is really an exciting opportunity that lies ahead both at I think the federal and the state level.
Okay. Well, that we will leave it there. I hope you come back and tell us a little bit about how things are going as the year goes by.
Anytime, I welcome the opportunity to come back. So thank you.
Excellent. I hope that'll we'll try to make that happen. Chrissy
Thank you.
Buteas, President and CEO of the Healthcare Institute of New Jersey. Thank you very much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you for watching. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.